but if it works for you, and clearly that has been practiced many times, then it is the thing to do for you. And everyone's got their own slightly different routine, preparation.
So the Women's 10K Classic about to get excuse me, underway. Second day of the season. Of course, 3 consecutive days of racing here in Ruka. It's a tough opening program after lots and lots of trial races. Of course, plenty of training over the summer months. And Yasmin Kahara from Finland, who actually had a very good day yesterday, just missed out on a semi-final slot, finished 13th in all in the sprints, and I think that will give her a little bit of a boost for today. And as I said, 10 Finns racing on the card today, and here's the second one of them.
Yes, a lonely race out front, isn't it, for Kahara? She's got 5 kilometres. She won't see anyone, of course, ahead of her, but she will be possibly closed down by Lilin Pera. 60, well, this is her 62nd World Cup start, so vastly experienced. All arms, isn't it, along the straight past the commentary booths, down the first of the steep hills.
Yeah, that's usually an indication that the snow's running okay. If it's really slow, they'd be using the legs as well, just to sort of get some extra acceleration. Here's Monika Skinder of Poland, youngster. Last time Poland won this event, you have to go all the way back to the 13-14 season. No prizes for guessing who it was. Justina Kowalczyk, who was an absolute genius when it came to particularly the 5 and the 10K Classic. 10K Classic, I think, her favourite.
I think she was extraordinary, not just with all her victories and the amount of time she won the overall World Cup, but the fact she started skiing so late at 15-year-old, and her technique lacked a little in terms of balance.
Yeah, the Italians, well, they haven't shone for a while. Big names. We're still going back to the 1980s with Dencenta, the 90s with Belmondo, and I guess the most recent star in Italian skiing was Peruzzi. They need some more. They've only got 2 skiers today. What's going on?
It's incredible. I tell you what, though, Patrick, with the Olympics 4 years, well, 3.5 years' time in fact, Comorella's village in Cortina, then I think the programme has been developed. We're seeing the young names coming through, and they need to develop.
Yeah, it was a bit late for developing for that, as we see Maya Dahlqvist now really disappointed yesterday. She fell in the final. Looked pretty good as far as I was concerned to defend the title that she won here last year. Ended up coming 6th, having taken a fall on the last corner. She was really generous when it came to congratulation rebomb. She, because there was no doubt that someone behind her, and it was a teammate behind her, must have clipped those skis.
I think so. The ski was airborne. It was gently touched by mistake, and it put her balance off. She fell backwards with only 35 metres to go.
Laura Gimler for Germany comes out of Oberstdorf, which is a venue where we've been for the World Championships on many occasions. Yeah, good tough skiing in Oberstdorf.
And the German team, Laura Gimler from Oberstdorf, she expected a lot at the World Championships there. It didn't really work out, but they were stronger last year at the Olympics.
Novakova for the Czech Republic. And the Czechs yesterday, I think, slightly surprised that Teresa Baranova failed to get through to the final. Baranova looked so good in the first round, probably too good. I think really just used too much energy too soon. Marcic for Poland, one of the under-23 athletes. Quite a lot of competition in the under-23 category this year.
I thought Marcic, the 16th position in the skiathlon at the Olympics, I thought that was outstanding at 21-year-old. I think they need a new pen on that signage board to say that you're racing clean.
Daria Beatty, member of the White Horse Cross Country Ski Club in Canada, and regular on the tour. What's she up to? Around 80 World Cup starts, so no stranger to these situations.
BT, it's always great when your best race of the season is in the most important race, and that was the Olympics. 18th in the 10-kilometre classic there.
Sophie Kroll. No, I think Sophie Kroll was the one that was pulled out of the team relay in the Olympics. Her place taken by Victoria Karl, and of course Germany surprised us all by going on to win that one. So I wonder how that affected her.
She must have felt it. I think she just didn't feel the back of the throat didn't feel good. She felt a cold was coming on, and yes, she did finish 11th in this individual sprint, so she was good enough to be in there, and she must have some thoughts at the back of the mind that the team did take the gold medal.
Yeah, well, if she pulled herself out, credit to her. Most would just pretend things were all right on the biggest day, a day you've been training for, not for 4 years, but probably for 8 years, as we see Johanna Hagström of Sweden from Ulricehamn.
Tough team, isn't it? Second yesterday, you mentioned she didn't get a start, or she didn't get the Olympic slot, and such a good sprinter. Very tough when your team is so good. Tough team to get into.
Well, while we watch Shaligina from Kazakhstan, just give you some of the venues that we're going to be racing at this season. Ruka, obviously, this weekend. Traditionally, we go to Lillehammer next weekend, then to Beiderstolen. Davos hosts the round 17th, 18th December. That's always a good one at altitude, a real tester. Then we have the Tour de Ski, Valmoster, Oberstdorf, Val di Fiemme. Hopefully we get to Les Rousses this year. It didn't happen last year. Those races were cancelled. Toblach in the start of February, and then Oslo, Drammen, Falun, Tallinn and Lahti to finish the season off. What about Tallinn?
That's going to be very interesting. There hasn't been a World Cup there before, and the fact also that it goes on later, right the way to almost the end of March this year, and I think that's good. It spreads it out further, gives the athletes more rest in between.
Joensuu picked up a yellow card yesterday. Not a good start to the season. Just trying to remember what that was for.
I think it was interfering. There was an elbow or something small and not really noticeable. Joensuu, fourth in recent race up in Olos, north of Finland. Big names were there, so she's in form.
And as is normally the way now in the time trial events such as this, there's a seeded group, but the seeds don't run one after the other. There's always a lesser established athlete in between them. The reason for that, I guess it reduces the chances of someone being able to feed off someone else's strength because they start a minute apart.
Yes, and for us to make sure we see all of the big names rather than being clumped together.
Canada's Stuart Jones comes from a place called Nakatok. Not familiar with it myself, but it sounds as though it must be up north. We'll check that out. There's the new pen. Kiloinen, 25th in the World Cup standings last year. She was number 4, I think, in the Finnish team at the end of last season. Niskanen was the best, then Parmakoski, and then Matintalo came in at 18th. Matintalo, who we'll see later, she of course had a disappointing day yesterday. 3.1. So let's just have our first look at the splits. We've got a few through 3.1, but I guess we can read more from those who've gone through 1.1. Who started quickest?
So, Lilimpera, clearly that first 1.1 kilometres, it's from the stadium, it's an easy journey, not much climbing up to that point, so it's a good indicator, I think, of how the skis are running. Lilimpera is just 0.2 of a second ahead of Dahlqvist, and here is Dahlqvist now, 2 kilometres further along the track.
Yeah, and Dahlqvist turning the tables on Lilimpera. That's a gain. It's a gain of nearly 4 seconds, 3.9 seconds in that section.
Interestingly, looking at Patricia Eduka, we saw her start from Latvia in cooperation with the British team this year. They're getting her waxing done by their Swedish, their one wax technician this year.
Sophia Laukli.
I remember her so well on the final climb of the Tour de Ski. Remember the two Americans, McCabe just ahead of her, finishing 7th in that mass start up the final climb, 10 kilometres and 4 of those kilometres up a downhill ski area, and Lauchley finished 5th. Incredible.
Yeah, she had a good run. Delphine Claudel had an excellent run on the Alpe d'Huez this year as well. I think she was in the top 3. So that's, it's nowhere near the same profile as this race, but there are some steep climbs here. So it favours those who are good on the hills.
It really does. And this hill, and of course Lillehammer next weekend, famed for its long, continuous hill. Here you have more undulating descents, fast descents and steep climbs.
Last little bit of preparation for Therese Stadlober as we see Julia Kern in the starting area. The Americans certainly over the last decade, Mike, probably the American women's team, probably the best improved team on the tour. Now they're not surprised when they get a podium. They expect a podium.
Yes, they do. And Jess Diggins, I think it's been a huge part in that. Of course, for Jess, it was Keegan Randall who showed her the path, how you can win. What was it, 16 victories from Keegan Randall?
Yeah, fantastic achievement as we see Ingvild Flugstad Østberg. So good to see her back on the World Cup Tour. She has done 265 races, only bettered by Palmakoski by 3. But we've missed her over the last season. Didn't see her much last year. But remember, in 2016 she was 2nd in the overall World Cup, 3rd in 17, 3rd in 18. She won in 2019. She's a superstar. But health problems keeping her out of action much of the last 24 months.
It's a real shame, and I hope that Østberg today finds her magic, finds her joy in skiing again, and I really believe she can get into the top 10, possibly top 5.
Yeah, Norwegian trial races in Stolen. Quite impressed with what she did. Wasn't winning, but she wasn't far off the winners.
Yes, and those races, when you've been out of racing or feeling good in races for a long time, you just need to begin to build the confidence, and I think that's what Stolen will have achieved for her.
Yeah, Dahlqvist still leading at 3.1 as you saw. The leaders are through 5k. That's Lilin Perra leads at 12.35. So what are we looking at? A winning time, I think we're going to go sub 25, Mike.
I think so. There's a lot of slipping there. The last thing you want, Hagström there slipping severely up that more gentle climb. Now it gets steeper. She jumps out into the more powder snow to get more grip on the grip wax.
Yeah, 25 minutes for 10k classic is pretty sharp, isn't it?
It's not bad.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that on the roller skis. Calva starts
on the flats.
Norway now. Who's going to be the star in the Norwegian team this year? They've obviously lost Bjørgen, they've lost Johaug. So are we looking at the two Weng twins as opposed to Heidi Weng?
I think Heidi Weng, certainly for the distance, the twins, one's better at sprinting, one better at distance, so it's a mixed bag.
And Fossesholm?
Fossesholm, we didn't see much of her best last year. I've heard that the training has been on plan and she is improving on her weaker areas, and that's of course what athletes want to do, improve the weaker areas.
So Jönsson up to 3.1, she's not quite going to match that, but what's she going to be, 10 seconds or so outside the best, which will probably put her into the top 5 or 6. Even better, 3rd position, 9.8 behind, and a solid start from Jönsson. Sweden, Finland, top 3 at 3.1. Now, Heidi Weng, 13 wins in her career, and certainly since Bjørgen has left, she's picked up a few more wins. She looks hungry, Mike, but another of those who sort of goes through lean spells where nothing seems to be working, and so often it's when it's at the big occasion. Does that mean to you that she's putting too much pressure on herself?
I think so. I think you're right with that. When you're winning races prior to, say, major championships, world championships or Olympics, expectations are high, and there's a lot more pressure on the athlete's shoulders, and I don't think she's been able to cope with that quite as well as some of the bigger names.
Yeah, Heidi Weng on 96 podiums. That will be a landmark. Do you think she'll get to 100?
I think she will. I think so.
You said the same about Bjorndalen when he got to 92 wins. He didn't happen.
They got rid of him too early.
Just wait for the cheer when Krista Palmer-Koski comes off the start line. Again, she looks hungry. She did yesterday, but it didn't happen in the sprint. Yeah, there's a buzz around the stadium as Krista Palmer-Koski sets off, and she's gone very, very hard over that first 100. Be interesting to see what she does up to 1.1. But 1.1, Mike, is a lot of that is to do with your ski speed down that first hill.
And that will be a good indicator. So we've got Leland Pera in second place at the moment at 1.1. So, and then Guensu in seventh place. So we can estimate the technicians have got the glide factor going well.
Yeah, Maya Dahlqvist in your picture. She's been the pace setter so far. She leads at 3.1. She leads at 5 kilometres by a big margin of 11.8. And she really showing the way for the rest of the Swedish team. She's got Frida Karlsson obviously starting behind her, Ebba Andersson starting behind her. Both of us interested to see how they get on. Such a battle the Swedes have had, particularly with the Norwegians here in Ruka over the years, with Kaller and Björgen and then Karlsson and Johaug. What's the matchup going to be this year?
It's quite different as Niskanen sets off. She's proved her strength last year at 33-year-old, now 34-year-old, and I believe she'll have another good season. And I think with Johaug not being here, it's releasing a lot of inner belief in those top 6-7 names. They know they can win.
Yeah, Lena Canton, who we saw in quite a few sprints last year. I think we'll see her level come up a couple of percentage points this season. Just thinking there, Niskanen with a good start. 1 minute exactly behind Palmer-Koski, 2 minutes behind Weng. But you go another minute back and you've got Jess Diggins, who can feed off 3 of the fastest athletes who are all starting just ahead. Very easy job for the American coaches to give us splits. And Jess Diggins, can she notch up win number 13 of her career?
Great aggression. She did say after yesterday that she needs to sharpen a little, getting back, like going back to school or preparing for a major exam. She didn't quite have everything in place. She certainly looks like she's in place today.
.62 starters in all. Rajko of Kazakhstan, she'll be followed out of the start gate by Therese Stadlober. There is the tall Austrian, 29 years old now, and classic certainly her favoured style.
We mentioned earlier that taking the wrong turn at the Olympics she was in second place, so clearly in second place, took the wrong turning, finished 7th, and I thought that ghost may haunt her all of her life, but until Beijing she put that right with the 3rd position in the skiathlon. She did get that gold individual medal.
Ritzek of Germany. Victoria Karl starts number 48, and then Katarina Hennig starting number 56. Now, first chance to see how Östberg is going. She didn't feature in the first split at 1.1, so she's over 10 seconds off the mark. 25 seconds to get to the top. First bit of climbing looks very lean and strong. You can see the blue co-op sign at the top. That's where the clock will stop, and she's a good 15 seconds off that. So I think we're going to be looking at a deficit, I would think under 10 seconds.
Interestingly, at 1.1, Patrick, Östberg was 7, nearly 8 seconds behind, so Certainly not an aggressive start, just getting into her racing again.
Yeah, but I think she's pretty much held her ground since then. She goes through at 11.6, went wide on that corner. So work to do for Østberg, but that still puts her into 4th position. Maya Dahlqvist has gone very hard, and Dahlqvist has gone through 6.1, wondering whether we're going to see her fade. She's the earliest of the big names, and that always, you haven't got anyone else's splits to feed off, so you tend to race the first half too hard.
I think so. And well, here's Carlson, winner last year. She'll be setting her mindset for another victory now, and it's going to be an attack, I think, all the way through.
Yeah, that was a dynamic start from Carlson. She's got a good, powerful double poling action, and I think we could see something special from her today. Calver coming up towards the top.
Well, this is the new lead time, quite sure. Patrick Calver putting a good pace up this climb.
Yeah, Calver with the lead time at 1.1 at the moment. She went past the first of the red barriers at 30 seconds, so we'll use that as an indication for those to come. She's still, it's going to be a, 3 or 4 seconds advantage, possibly.
Oh, big slipping. Not bad.
A little better, 5.2, and beautifully smooth. Traditional Norwegian style, would you say, with the slightly slower tempo, but very, very smooth, efficient action.
Yes, so balanced, so easy.
Till Udnes Veng, and Till Udnes third yesterday. 2 podiums in succession would certainly boost her chances of going to the top of the World Cup table. Emma Ribon leading the World Cup. She's in yellow, having won yesterday. Hagström 2, Veng 3, then Yasmi Yoentsu ahead of Stenseth for 4 and 5, as we see Anna Melnik from Kazakhstan, start of her World Cup career.
Looking further up the track, Dahlqvist is still leading, and it's a decent margin, 15 seconds ahead of Joensuu, over half distance. But as you mentioned, I think that Dahlqvist is going to fade a little to have gone right through to the final. Well, here she is, still leading at 8.1. The final yesterday, but fell with 30 metres to go. It's a lot of energy yesterday, and I think she is slowing down.
Yeah, she was 17 ahead of Lillienperä. She's now just 15 ahead. In fact, that's down to 10 seconds, so she's lost 7 seconds over the last 2 kilometres. And we all know about the last couple of kilometres in this race. There's still a big climb to come. So Dahlqvist, I think, just getting the pacing slightly wrong. What about Heidi Veng? Wouldn't expect her to lead at 1.1, and she was down in 8th place, 3.5 behind. That margin has grown 9.8 seconds. Yeah, interesting start. Generally, we see her a little slower off the start gate than the younger athletes.
Yes, it's still early days in her race, but when she's on the podium, you see a slightly more aggressive attacking technique. That was an efficient, more easy technique.
First time in yellow for Emma Ribon, and I bet it feels good. She's got a family here, plenty of friends here. She doesn't live so far away, and it's another big occasion. But it's the Norwegians setting the pace at the moment. Is Palmakoski going to do anything about it? Coming up to 3.1. No, she's just going to miss out.
The tracks must be icing there. Look at the slipping, Patrick. So they're becoming glazed, shiny bit of the track there. Surprised they're not jumping out into the softer snow. Slipping again.
It is steep. It's much steeper than it appears on your screens.
It really is. It's just a draining hill. Here's the lead on into that climb.
Kerttu Niskanen, silver medal in the Olympic Games, as we mentioned, at this distance. Got a win in the Tour de Ski last year on the same day and the same course that her brother got one. That was turn up for the books, and classic style again. Suits her, really good at altitude. Hasn't got that here, so we'll see what she can do in Davos. It's a shame that the Davos distance race is always freestyle.
It is, isn't it? And it's a unique track, and it's a unique profile when it's so high altitude in Davos. Nothing, no impact at all here from altitude. What are we, 200 metres above sea level?
Yeah, Niskanen's another who's going to be within 7 or 8 seconds of the race leaders. but just off the pace set by Calver. I must say, Calver looked beautifully smooth. Compared to Calver to Heidi Weng, it was a different dynamic.
It was. Heidi was a little tight, and I just feel here, Paul, Niskanen is on her absolute limit here at 3.1 and finding herself asking some questions 6 seconds behind. It's going to be tough for Niskanen.
Yeah, at the top of that climb, I think the difference between Calver and the rest so far is that Calver on each stride was able to stand tall. The others haven't got the energy to get up there, and so it looks a little bit more like a shuffle, whereas Calver was flowing beautifully, standing tall, getting that little bit of relaxation on the ski. Here we go with Ebba Andersson, another of the Swedish top stars. We'll track her progress round as we see Jess Diggins coming up the 3.1. Diggins not in the top 10 at 1.1. We'll try and get you her first split.
That's a strange indicator. If she wasn't in the top 10, I thought she would be. Look how wide Diggins is having to go. She's spreading the skis wide. Clearly the grip is an issue. That's a real shame.
Yeah, down in 21st at 3.1, 13 seconds off the pace. Now at 17, it is not going to be a happy day. And she'll never say that it's the skis, but it may well be. Dahlqvist into the finish. This is going to be a pretty impressive pace-setting run from Maja Dahlqvist of Sweden, 6th yesterday, having fallen in the final of the sprint. 18.3 inside Lillimpera, so raised her game over the last kilometre, Mike, because it looked as though she was going to be in a battle to beat Lillimpera. She's done that comfortably. Hennig, 3rd last year. And if you're 3rd last year and one of those athletes is missing and another is not quite, we don't think, on the same form, maybe she's starting to think a win is possible.
I think, and her recent form, yes, training races in north of Finland, but she's skiing really well. Maybe that's just taking pressure off, saying, well, if I get top 10, top 8, I'm happy. And that does take the pressure off. I think she'll do a lot better than what she said.
Yeah, Rosie Brennan up to 3.1. The little red bollards on the left needed to be there in 30 seconds. She's 7-8 seconds down on that. Are we starting to think the Americans have all got slow skis?
Well, there's Rosie at 1.1. She's 10 seconds off the pace. It's a fair indicator, isn't it? That's when you're fresh and got a lot of fight in you, and it's a very easy part of the track.
Most of the big names are now through 1.1, and the news is good for Sweden. It's also good for Germany, Mike. Katarina Hennig has gone through, and she's in 3rd place at the moment at 1.1, 5 seconds off the lead, 2 seconds ahead of Calver, who held the lead there for a long time before the Swedish Karlsson and Andersson came through. So Karlsson leads at 1.1. She also leads at 3.1. Turludnes Weng is not going to challenge. The margins now look big. What have we got? 15 seconds between the top 4 at 3.1, and Turludnes Weng is outside that by another 4, down in 8th place.
And I think we haven't seen too much of Feindrich, bib 27 at 3.1. It's a great start from Feindrich. She was only 15 behind, 4th position.
Carl, 9 seconds down 2 kilometres ago. Has she managed to turn that around? She's gaining pretty rapidly on Theodorsen of Norway. Anything within 10 seconds of the lead is good, Mike, because it puts you into the top 3. She's going to be slightly outside that. I think we're probably looking at 15, 16 again. So a top 10 place. Other names in the top 10 at 3.1. Rosie Brennan deserves a mention. 16 outside the lead, but in 7th place. Niskanen, who looked very good when she came through, she's down in 5th, 16 behind. Calver, 6 ahead of Palmer-Koski. She was 10 ahead of Palmer-Koski at 3.1. So Krista Palmer-Koski is either she's starting to wind it up or Calver is starting to pay the price of going hard early.
Yes, well, and she did. Calver pressed hard, but very efficient. She lost that efficiency. She maybe has tightened up now as the race progresses.
Niskanen in 5th place at 3.1. She'll do better as in terms of Calver. She was 6 seconds down on Calver, so might have been able to turn those tables.
I like the way she's deliberately trying to get slide the foot so far forward to get grip through the wax that I think is lacking slightly. They've gone very light on the wax, but it looks laboured.
Now, explain to, say, a club skier, Mike, why they're so keen to stay in the tracks rather than come out and do the herringbone.
Well, I think two things. The herringbone, you're using more energy, so you're running with a ski on its edge. It is also faster in the track, so as we saw Niskanen there trying to slide the foot so far forward to maximise that grip. Yes, you would have got more grip. She may well have got more grip initially on the outside of the track on the powder, but then she would have had to break into the herringbone run, and that is more energy.
But it does come to the stage where it's like trying to drive a car up a hill in 6th gear. You know, changing down is a good decision because you lose momentum, eventually you stall.
And later today, when we watch Klebo coming up there, it'll be tempo, tempo, tempo. It'll be rapid, keeps so upright, so it's about capacity as well, isn't it? How much you can keep the engine running. And I do think on the steeper hills, changing down a gear, increase the frequency is a more efficient way.
Feindrich has been sitting in the top 6 or 7 all the way through the race so far, and coming up to 8.1. Dahlquist's time of 21:17 isn't going to be bettered, but if she can stay within 15, that's still pretty handy. Wearing 27, through goes the Swiss skier, 10 seconds behind Dahlquist now at 8.1, and yeah, that's pretty much the same margin as she had at 6.1, so those two travelling well. Frida Karlsson still got the lead, and looking good. Ebba Andersson's gone through 3.1 into 2nd place, 6.5 behind. And how's that margin? That margin has grown by 2 seconds. So Frida Karlsson, I think, pacing things well as we see Calver, early leader at 3.1. She's got a massive lead at 8.1, but I wonder how much information she's got on the progress of the Swedes.
She will be getting that information now. Calver not looking stressed at all, keeping that efficiency. Big, tall athlete, long, rangy movements. I'm missing slightly Johaug not here. We'd often expect, some rocket coming through to disrupt everything we've seen so far. She's not here this year. She's retired, and it's making for a very, very exciting, tight race.
Yeah, well, last year's was exciting. Johaug beaten for the first time in a long time. Actually, it was the first time in a decade that the Norwegian pair of Johaug and Bjørgen didn't win this race.
Incredible. Now that was interesting, Patrick. Hennig, we heard her say top 10, top 8. She's in 3rd, and I think she's going to press on and potentially win this one.
7.7 behind for Hennig. If she gets within 10 seconds of the Swedes, I think she'll go to bed tonight thinking, I can do that. If it's 20, 25, everyone knows that is a big, big margin.
It is, and I think Hennig, when we're looking now without Johaug at the overall World Cup winner, I think Katarina Hennig has a chance. She's normally better in sprinting. She fell yesterday, losing precious points, but she was very philosophical about it. That happens. She looks very calm and very strong this year.
Karlsson back into the tracks, coming up towards 6.1. Calver at 5 was 13 down. Karlsson now only 9.6 ahead. So Calver, who's been looking really smooth, does seem to have picked things up. The section from 5 to 6.1, Mike, I'm trying to think, that's downhill. So Calver has got a good pair of skis on.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get the indicator there on. It's surprising, although have to say, Carlson, even though, yes, that tongue comes out, that's her style since she was a kid racing, she looks absolutely spent to me.
Palmakoski at 6.1 in third, 16 seconds down on Frida Karlsson. She was 7 seconds down on Calver, who has the lead here. I think Palmakoski might have closed that gap on Calver just a little bit, from 7 to 5. Good work from the Finnish veteran, and she, you know, what's this support worth? She's getting more cheers than anyone, even Niskanen. Palmakoski is the one round here for the local crowd, and that's got to be worth, what, 4 or 5 seconds on the last 2k?
If the brain is saying yes, can the body say go? We'll have to wait and see, but without a doubt, spectators alongside, and she'll be getting all the information on those precious 5.1 seconds.
I don't imagine, well, you'd never raced at home, so you didn't know what racing in front of a home crowd was like, but when you had a sort of friendly crowd, did you notice a difference, or did you react the other way?
I reacted positively, and in fact, when we went to the old Russia in the early days, 80,000 people did cheer for the minor nations, maybe not so much for the main contenders. So I remember getting this wave of support, and it absolutely made a difference. It was like Tour de France. They were into the track in front of you, and cheering madly, and it certainly does get your psyche going.
Well, let's just focus on Calver as she comes into the finish. Dahlqvist leading on 25.20. Feindrich coming into the finish as well. She's 23 seconds outside. Calver wearing 29, so started a minute behind Feindrich. And here we go, 23, it's going to be a new leader, no doubt about it, but what will the margin be? Well, 17.8 ahead of Dahlqvist, having been, she had a lead of 21, so she's lost a little bit on that final climb. Well worth saving just a fraction. There's Usberg there as well. Haven't seen much of her, Mike, but she's in 10th. She was in 10th. She's in 6th in the finish. She's in 10th at 8.1 and outside the top 10 at 6.1.
I think that's a wonderful performance from Calver. She kept that easy flowing technique. She didn't tighten up. Maybe she lost a little on the final climb, but that's an outstanding performance. And Usberg in 6th place, 40 seconds behind. There she is at 26. It's great to see her back in the top 10 and looking very, very comfortable on her skis. Heidi Weng, it hasn't been her best day. She seems to have picked up, she's getting all the split timings now, she's picked the pace up. Where does she get the energy from on this last climb?
Yeah, 21 seconds to get inside. It's a good 30 seconds from here, so I'm expecting to see her, 14, maybe even 16 seconds outside the lead time. Maybe not.
Well, she has.
Rounding that final corner well.
She's picked it up so well this last 2 kilometres.
Yeah, she was 11 down on Calver when she went through the last split. So Heidi Weng has done well. She's closed that gap just a fraction, 7.6, and she's up threatening the podium positions again. Her career goes on and on and on. Well over 250 World Cups, remember.
Well, here she is, Palmakoski. I thought she'd be coming up this hill soon. This is looking good. What's the coach saying? Just giving her that precious information. It was 5.1 seconds behind.
Yeah, I think Palmakoski is just ahead of Weng, to be honest. 4 seconds between them at the last split at 8.1. This is where we find out what the crowd are worth, Mike. From 4 seconds behind Weng, we'll see what that will do. Actually, 4 seconds ahead of Weng, so we'd expect to see her just 3 or 4 seconds off that leading time of Calver of Norway. It's a good run from Palmakoski. She's going into the top 3 for now, might even get 2. She does, and sneaks in ahead of Heidi Weng. What a fantastic run from Krista Palmakoski. So Calver leads, Palmakoski 2, Weng in 3, Dahlqvist 4, and Ebba Andersson looking pretty good at 54. She's gone ahead of Karlsson. only 2.7 seconds, but the next split at 8.1 is going to be so crucial, Mike. And if the two Swedes are just seconds apart coming into that last climb, who would you favour?
Oh, for me, Anderson. It's just the fact that the energy here from Carlson, it's not quite the same punch as we saw earlier. Well, I take that back. Actually, she seems to have found something from somewhere. But remember, Ebba's getting the split time. She started 5 minutes behind Carlson.
Yeah, she was 10 seconds up on Calver at the last split. Now she finds her just 7.2. So Calver's performance, her finish was good, and she leads with a time of 25.03. Winning time last year 24.29 in decent conditions with Frida Karlsson. I think Frida Karlsson looked a little stronger this time last year.
Yes, she did. She had the determination, and Johaug was there. She wanted to beat Johaug. Almost impossible to do that, but she did.
Niskanen not on her best form at 24.1. She was 7th last year, 42 seconds down off the leaders. So I think she'll be reasonably happy that she's only 24 down on Calver at the moment. There is Calver, our current leader. 27th in the World Cup last year. She comes from Lundamo, which is just south of Trondheim. Did a little weather check there this morning, +6 degrees. What's going on?
Incredible, absolutely incredible. And I think for Calver, that's a 30-year-old to come to your best racing form. Best last year in Classic was 10th position in Lenzerheide. This is a great day for Calver. I do think, though, that Ebba Andersson is going to spoil the party, and I think she may be even surpass Frida Karlsson.
Well, we will see. Anderson leading, as you can see, at 6.1. She's yet to go through 8.1. Karlsson has just gone through that stage. That could be the decisive moment of this race. Calver, Palmakoski, Weng, the leading three at the moment. I don't think, Mike, that this is going to be podium number 97 for Heidi Weng. I think the two Swedes are going to push her down into 5th, maybe down into 6th by the end of the day. But a good run. Usberg still lying in 9th. I think the Norwegians are delighted to have her back on the thing and healthy. But I think they'd also admit that she's slightly race rusty at this level, although her trial races were good in Bidestone.
They were, and I think for Usberg, 9th at the moment, I think this is a great start to her season and a confidence builder.
Well, Diggins was certainly one of the names on our sheet for possible winners today, but nothing's happened for her. No Americans in the top 10 at the moment, and I don't think that is going to change as we see Frida Karlsson coming up towards the finish. This is crucial. She must be aware that Ebba Andersson is piling on the pressure behind her. So this climb, absolutely essential if she's going to get herself a win here and do what she did last year. The very fact that her breathing not quite as clean, an indication that she's not 100% fit. The effort is always there. It's not always good to look at, but my goodness, she works hard. And this last 150 metres along the flat, Mike, is crucial for Andersson to take advantage of her good double poling.
It is. What about Rosie Brennan? We haven't seen much of her, but to move up into 4th position, outstanding.
So Brennan 15.5 behind. Here comes Frida Karlsson. This is so important if she wants to add to her number of wins on the World Cup. Calver, I think, knows that her lead is going. There were 7.2 seconds between them at the last split at 8.1. Another 40 metres to go for Frida Karlsson. 30 seconds. She's going to be inside that comfortably. Calver's going down to 2. And Frida Karlsson, the new leader, 7.8. So she just sneaks another half second or so over that last 1900 metres. That was hard work, the speed not necessarily coming. Ebba Andersson has a huge opportunity now.
Oh, here she is, and this looks fabulous. She really has paced this race so well.
Yeah, this is strong. Look at the glide she's getting. 30 seconds past the little bollard. She's got 27. It's close. It is close, but she looks to be climbing this hill better than anyone so far. Ebba Andersson at 6.1. was at 2.7 down on. Anderson was leading at 6.1, 2.7 ahead of Frida Karlsson. I think it might have switched. It's going to be desperately close. 2-1. There's the split. The light is green. 0.6 of a second between the two big Swedes at the moment. It's going to be an Anderson-Karlsson affair here in Ruka. But which one of the two is going to take the win? Huge advantage for Anderson. She will know exactly what she's got to do coming into the stadium.
She really does. There's a fast descent after this horrific climb, and that's a technical left and right, and then really it's all about the final 800 metres, which is the tough climb back into the stadium. It has to be advantage Anderson, surely, getting the split times every second, every part of a second counting.
Across the line for Tyroludnis Veng, only 30 seconds outside. Now we're used to seeing a 30-second gap between first and second here. Johaug so dominant here. What did she have? Well, there were 37 seconds separating the top three last time around. In 2021 we had a 20-second gap, 30-second gap between Johaug and Palmakoski in 1920. As we see Katarina Hennig, she's been challenging for the podium positions. Is she going to hold it just outside? Good battle between Katarina Hennig and Kalva of Norway. Again, the German with the advantage, knowing what she's got to do. As you said, Mike, earlier on, you can always find a second and a half.
I think you can. Hennig will be told she's 0.7 of a second off third place, and that's a major motivator, and you would expect that she can pull that less than a second back to slot into third place.
Victoria Karl is going to be around 40 seconds outside. Can you remember any coaches that had words of wisdom, that just that little gem of information that drove you on?
It's just if it's authoritative and if it's very precise, the brain is in a storm of pain, and focusing in on yourself, and then you just want clear, positive, and so very loud, very precise. It doesn't need to be encouraging, it just needs to be clear. You can do this, you can find half a second.
Yeah.
And it really does help.
You notice with the Norwegians, it's often you're 4 or 5 seconds down on third place rather than you're 28 seconds down on the lead. You want something that's achievable.
You do. You want something that's very relevant. Yes, I'm hurting, but I'm sure I can find one more second.
And honesty important?
Vital. If you don't believe in the person shouting it, it's a mess. I was given splits at the British Champs once. They were wrong splits. They affected my race. I believed in them, and your mind questions actually. Was that a real time? Or was that a bluff time? And then you waste energy thinking that way. So honesty wins.
So here comes Ebba Andersson in towards the finish area. She's still got the big climb to go. She looks in a much better state than we saw from Frida Karlsson at this stage of the race. We may get a close-up, see the breathing, but the tempo is there. I think my money's on her at this stage of the race. She's got 30 seconds to reach the top of the climb if she's going to challenge Frida Karlsson. Karlsson looking for the repeat win here in Ruka. She's nervous. I think she knows. Once she knows it's close, but I think that face tells you that she thinks Anderson is going to get it.
45, Oleg just moving over, allowing Anderson to rocket past her.
Yeah, Anderson knows exactly what she's got to do, and 39, she's there. Oh. She's going to make it. She's put in a fantastic shift over the last kilometre and a half. What was she, at 8.1? Anderson was just 0.6 of a second clear. She certainly transferred that into a decent lead.
Yes,
good work.
I think Karlsson knows it. Her hands are freezing. She's trying to warm her hands up. This is a great day for Ebba Andersson. What a wonderful way to start her season.
No wins last year for Ebba Andersson. She's only had one in her career, but this is going to be number 2. Have a look at that, 5.7. Brilliant finish to the race. Always looked in control, and Ebba Andersson, sensational. 3rd in the World Cup standings at the end of last year. I think we're going to have a battle between the two big Swedes this season. Interested to see whether Hennig can overhaul Kalva in the last stages, because that final podium spot has still to be decided. Hennig trailing by 0.7 of a second to Kalva, going through 8.1, and she started number 56, so she needs to finish in the next 30 seconds. There's your winner. Calvert 13 seconds outside. So Hennig, I think she might have turned the tables on the Norwegian.
I think so, coming into the final straight. Yes, I think she's going to just get in under Calvert.
13.5 was Calvert's time. We'll see that in a second. Carlson is safe.
Close.
Calvert on 13.5. Oh, it's desperately close. 0.2 of a second. The work has paid off. And again, a later start number. Calvert bitterly disappointed. She was brilliant, Mike. Put it the other way round, start Hennig where Calvert started and vice versa. I think the result would have changed.
I think it would have, and what a shame for Calvert. Yes, she was the pathfinder out there, bib number 29, the early, in fact not even in the seeded group, such is her performance last year. She really has come into this season brilliantly well. Margins are so small, but look how tight this is, Patrick. 31 seconds between the top 8. Very exciting season for cross-country skiing in the women's field.
4-time second last year for Ever Anderson. She's put it right in the first race of this season. Didn't get any victories last year, which was very, very surprising. I was starting to think she was going to have a career like Heidi Weng, where it was, majority podiums, very seldom on the top. But she looked good today. She proved how strong she is, not just physically, but in the head, in the mind.
And she looked calm out there. Normally we see her racing quite madly and aggressively. There was calm up 10. Just looking at further down, in fact, off this page, Jessie Diggins.
So just cast your eye over the result sheet. Stadlober down at 25, just Diggins 21, 118. That's a monster margin over just 10 kilometres. So work to do there. I think Brennan proving that it wasn't just the skis, Mike, because she's got herself a 7th place, which is very, very handy. Niskanen 10th. We'll see better probably at the next of the classic races.
I think so. What about Ishida, the 42-year-old, 19th, just over a minute behind? She's still very much at the races. That's a wonderful performance.
Yeah, there's hope for you yet.
Are you going to make a comeback?